this is not your first time in Jefferson, too. I mean, as you guys took the old steam engine that was here, too. And so coming back here, is it kind of like, and to my knowledge, you guys have bought all the equipment and the train cars and the rail and everything. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay,
all the rolling stock. And I tell you, the first time I came to Jefferson, it was just to meet Don and Francine and see the old number 7 and the train I rode as a kid. And I actually fell in love with Jefferson. Jefferson's a really nice little getaway. I tell my wife all the time, I want to just come to hang out. We've been coming to do work, but I want to come to just hang out a little bit too in Jefferson because it's really nice. So, what's really meaningful to me is, the warm reception that Don and Francine gave myself, my wife, when we first came up and met him. I still have one of the coach's arms he gave me. He had some of those extra, and he gave me one and autographed it Diamond Don for me. I actually have that sitting in my office. And people always point at it and ask questions. So just this, of course I would rather the train be home, and I'm so excited that it's coming back to, practically where it, was born at, 30 minutes away from the original park that it ran at. But, if Don and Francine hadn't have come along and saw their vision and then what they did for over 30 years, that train would have been gone. By the time we got to today, with the shape it was in when they found it, it wouldn't exist anymore. It would be, scrapped out, gone. So it's just a testament to them for preservation purposes, and there's just so many coincidences all along the way, and they've worked really hard to make it so we could acquire it. The first locomotive, the steam locomotive, they actually donated to our foundation. We're a 501c3 children's educational facility. And, that started, the relationship getting more serious, more business. And then they're like, hey, we're ready to go play on our own. We've been doing this long enough. We want to retire. And the opportunity just fell into place. I mean, they made it so we could afford it, and I'm really thankful for that. And our whole foundation is very grateful for them. So Kirby Family Farm is actually a 501c3 charity, like I mentioned. It's a 110-acre facility. And when we started the foundation, we being my wife and I, the founders, and saw the vision start to get, go from vision to reality. I always told my wife it has to circle, a train has to circle whatever we do. There's got to be a train there. So, there's a lot of people that have people in their lives that made the difference, whether it was a coach, a neighbor, or whatever, a grandparent. For me, it was a maternal grandfather, and he was an engineer on the railroad and a farmer. So that's how the whole Kirby Family Farm thing kind of fell into place. It's all my grandfather's fault. And the trains, my love of trains, it was all my grandfather's fault. And it's just really turned out to be a tie-in, where we save these old trains, the kids get involved, they get to help, and now we have quite a collection. We have some really amazing stuff. Of course, I'm biased to the old 6-gun trains because I literally, here I am at 55 years old talking with you, I rode that train when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, so it's very meaningful to us. In the past, everything that we've acquired, we've used outside shipping methods, and our staff, we have the right staff and things, so we invested in a custom-built trailer from Texas Pride Trailers, and we'll be moving our own rolling stock now. And so this is our first time getting to use our new trailer, and it's only fitting that it brings the 6-gun train home. So basically what we'll be doing is we'll be getting the trailer on the track. We can come in from the side and we'll line it up. We'll line up the rails. The trailer, we're mounting the rails on the trailer today, and we'll just pull it, with the winch and with the assistance of the locomotive. We'll just pull it right up on the trailer and chain it down and make sure our heights and widths are good, and off we go to Florida.
And off you go. How long's the trip?
Not pulling a train car, about 12 to 14 hours. Pulling a train car, I'll tell you later.
You don't know. You're going to be in for a ride and just see how it goes.
We're going to take our time. We're going to be the guys in the right lane taking our time.
Going back to Kirby Family Farms for a second, how big is y'all's little railroad, and roughly how many people do you guys serve?
So our railroad's a little over a mile. Being from Florida, a lot of people compare us to the railroad size at the Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom, and to give you an idea, you could actually pick up the Magic Kingdom and set it inside our loop. If you have to kind of squish some things around into a little bit of a different shape, but it would fit inside of our loop. So we're a little over a mile. When we were building the track, I said it has to be over a mile because it just doesn't sound cool if you say almost a mile. I wanted to be over a mile. So as far as how many people we see, there's two ways to look at that. In a typical year, we'll host over 10,000 children through our outreach programs. Now, if I say outreach, that's our free purpose for the kids. That's why we exist. You know, Kirby Family Farm wasn't named Kirby Family Farm because we're a farm, although we do hay and we've had animals, and we just became a 4-H chapter with gardening and stuff. But we call it Kirby Family Farm because our whole goal from the founding of it was to farm families and kids' lives who didn't have a family or were in a dysfunctional family. So that's kind of the background on the name. Any of the outreach programs are, you know, we offer those free. So the way we offset those costs is we open to the public for special events and visits and things. So in a typical year, we'll host over 10,000 children in our outreach programs at no cost. As far as guests, you know, supporters, you know, because it's all contributions, you know, my goodness, you know, I haven't done the final numbers for 2025, but I know we had several thousand come for our Christmas train.
Okay.
And our big three events for the year are the Six Gun Territory Wild West Weekend Reunion, where we actually have folks that worked at that original park where this train was built for and where it started its life. We have fellas that come out that used to fall off the roofs and all when they were 19, 20 years old, and we don't let them fall off the roof anymore because some of them have hip replacements and things. Yeah, so they're not allowed to fall. Some of them have to die on a bucket or not a bucket, a barrel. You know, but we have strict rules, you know, because we want to keep them with us as long as we can because we love them. But we have a great time, and all those funds go to the general fund of the charity to just offset the cost of operations for the year.
Right.
But we have the Christmas train, we have the scary train, then we have the Six Gun Territory Wild West weekends, and we do the Six Gun Territory event twice a year. It's very exciting, you know. A lot of people, you know, will mention that, oh, it's such a good thing you do and things. And I wonder if I may just be the most selfish person you ever meet, because it just makes me feel so good to see the success in the kids' lives and things. You know, it's just such a great feeling. But when it comes specifically to getting to incorporate stuff from your own childhood that gave you the good memories in rough times, you know, is what, you know, Six Gun was to me. You know, I look back and I remember one time I was a little guy, and I just remember sitting there on the porches of the western town, and it was packed as far every way. There was just people everywhere watching the gunfight. And it was just a split, you know, what do we remember when we're that young? It was just a couple second memory, but it was just so much joy. I felt so much joy. And then I have a faint memory of I remember sitting on one of the train cars at Six Gun, excited, and I was, you know, kicking my legs back and forth on the bench because my feet didn't reach the floor. And then towards the end of its life, you know, when Disney World had come to town and Star Wars was more popular than Wild West and things, I used to go to the Six Gun Territory Park, you know, frequently. And I would sometimes, there would only be a handful of families out there and things. So I'd have the whole park to myself. So the gunfighters, they didn't care if you know, I could get a cap gun from the souvenir shop and go fall dead in the gunfight in the middle of the road. They didn't mind, you know, because, you know, looking back, it's sad because those are the times I remember the most about the park. But looking back, you know, from a business standpoint, that's when it was also on its last leg, you know, that things, you know, it was suffering the test of time, because in the 60s, you know, it opened in the early 60s, it was the #1 man-made attraction in the state of Florida. And when you look at tourism in Florida, that's a pretty staunch, you know, spot to be sitting in. So we have 3 of the open air coaches, 1 enclosed coach and 1 flat car. And then we have the Critter, the little Plymouth locomotive.
So once you get this thing back, when are you planning to go back to Jefferson? Is it going to be a back and forth thing? What's your timeline there?
So we will gauge our last big fundraising event for the spring will be, well, not even quite spring yet, but in February we'll have our Wild West weekend. Okay. So we'll knock that out the first weekend in February, and then we'll start coming back pretty frequently back and forth.
Okay.